Back to Three's In, Bobo here. So, once I was asked, what was the worst T-38 ride you ever had? And I thought, really? The worst T-38 ride I ever had was actually pretty good. But be that as it may. At Vance, we had an ACE program. Now, ACE was Accelerated Co-Pilot Enrichment. And that's a program where we would take T-37s and put them at SAC bases for the tanker and the bomber co-pilots to fly. It was a lot less expensive for them to get flying time and experience in a trainer, a T-37, than it was in a tanker or a bomber. So I actually thought it was a great program. Helped develop airmanship, and if those were kids like me, I'll go. Throw me in that briar patch. And there were some guys that didn't want to fly either the Tweed or the 38. Well, too bad. So anyway, we got off track here. We would have to go around and inspect these bases, and the most economical way to travel often was just to stick a Tweed guy in the back seat of a 38 and take him up to these bases during the summer. In the wintertime, it was dicey because the 38 could not handle icing at all. So this one summer, I take one of my Tweed guys up to K.I. Sawyer. And that's another story for another day. I just thought of something. Cracks me up. Anyway, so I dropped this guy off. Now, he's going to do an inspection there, and I can't remember how he got home. That's not part of the story. But I was going to go from K.I. Sawyer down to Grissom Air Force Base in Indiana, and then fly back to Vance the next day. I was going to do an inspection at Grissom. That way we could inspect 2 of our 6 assigned bases. So I dropped my guy off, spent the night, and then the next morning got up, and when you know it, they had thunderstorms like you couldn't believe. I mean, K.I. Sawyer was just getting pounded. But I went ahead and filed a flight plan. And about the time I was walking out of base ops, a C-130 crew came walking in. So I walked up and I said, "Hey, how was it coming in?" And he said, "Well," he says, it was okay. He says, "but you can pick your way through it." Okay. He had no way of knowing I was a 38 guy. They were C-130 guys. Now, there's one small little detail that I didn't pick up on at that point. C-130s have radar. Well, fine. I didn't. So I go out, strap in the jet, and it's lightly raining, anything to concern myself with. So I taxi out and take off, and as I begin to climb and start turning southward, weather's getting a little bit more and more dicey. At first, I was able to fly through the light spots, and I was doing okay. I had filed at 35, I think, probably 33, 35. 35 was a favorite altitude of mine to file at. So I was climbing up to 35, and then the light spots started getting a little darker. And then those started getting a little darker, and I started bouncing around a little bit more. Well, you're flying a 38, so you gotta act cool, right? Even though nobody else can see me, I'm sitting there, that's okay, we're doing okay. So I'm flying there, continuing to climb up to 35, and I start getting the crap kicked out of me. So I'm really nice and a nice climb like that, bouncing around. And pretty soon I get bouncing around, really bouncing around. So I suddenly reach over and I hit the mic button and I said to Chicago Center, I said, "Say, if you were me in this airplane right now and you wanted to get out of this stuff, which way would you go?" And he said, "Well, sir," he says, "it really doesn't matter." He says, "You're right in the middle of it." Swell. So I said, "Okay, is 370 available?" He says, "Clear to 370. So I go up through 35 and then on up to 37, and it's still bouncing me around, and now I'm watching lightning go back and forth across the sky. Well, isn't that interesting? So I get to 37. How about 39? He's clear to 39. So I go on up to 39. So get up to 39. I'm still getting tossed around, but not quite as much. But I didn't like that very much. So then I said, how about 41? It cleared to 410. So I go up to 41. So I get up to 41, and now I'm just right at, I can see light up ahead of me, up above me. So I called up and said, "Is 43 available?" He said, "Clear to 43. Good. So I pop on up to 43. Now I broke out about 42, maybe 41.5, 42. So now I'm at 43, and I'm what we used to call scud running, just running on top of the clouds. And it really was nice, because now I'm at 41 or 43,000, and I'm looking out and I can see the tops of the thunderstorms starting to come up through the undercast. So I can pick my way around that. I don't need radar. Stevie Wonder could have found his way through that. So anyway, I'm sitting up there feeling pretty happy with myself, and all of a sudden I look down, and my HSI, my navigation, my TACAN, just started going around and around. Oh, great. So I called up air traffic control, and I says, "Hey, Chicago," I said, I think we were Duke at that time, Duke 17, be advised, I've just lost my TACAN. Okay, so he said, "Okay, just fly this heading here." He gave me a heading to Grissom. Okay, so I just flew that heading, and I wasn't up there very long. It's not that far. So I'm cruising along, and I start to break out, and I start to see the ground from 43, and that was mesmerizing. So I'm up there. It's really nice. Now I'm feeling really good. I don't have to do any navigation. He's going to take me to Grissom. So as I'm coming up there, I lost track of where I was going. I was just enjoying the ride. And so I got to thinking. I looked at rolled up and on a wing here, looked down at Chicago. I'd never seen Chicago from that. I'd never seen Chicago, period. So that was cool to see Chicago like that. And then the light dawned on me. Hey, Chicago, Grissom's not that far. Maybe you ought to think about asking for lower. So I called up and asked for lower, and they cleared me to descend. About the same time, I'm up on my wing like that, rolling, and I'm looking out the window, looking down at the loop. That was cool. And I felt the aircraft start to buffet. Now what? So I looked in and checked my instruments, and here I was right at the Mach. The damn thing was just right up against supersonic, and I'm carrying a pod, travel pod. I thought, oh crap! If that travel pod rips off, my luck, it's going to hit Paul Harvey. Jesus! So I pulled the throttles back to idle. Really, you got to at 43, 41, 39. You got to really be slow with them. So I brought them back to idle and gingerly started to bring the nose up, but I still had to get down. So I threw the speed brakes out. Well, in the T-38, when you're up around the Mach like that, the airplane don't care. You can throw the speed brakes out, and airplane don't care. It just keeps going fast. So anyway, I just did what I could to get that thing slowed down because I did not want that pod to come off. Okay, so nursed it back, the airspeed back a little bit to something to around 0.9 Mach. That's what we usually cruised at anyway at that altitude. Okay, so now I'm going downhill. I got the thing under control and so forth. And he brings me down to, maybe 2,000 feet AGL. And he says, okay, Grissom's 10 miles off your nose. And I look out and I can see the runway. I said, got it in sight. So he said, okay, you're cleared to tower frequency. And he gave me the freak. So I go over to the tower frequency and the damn radio started channelizing. Tick, tick, tick. Jesus Christ, what next? Okay, so I fly up initial and I'm sitting there rocking my wings like crazy as I came up on initial. Pitched out, came around, looked for the green light and got the green light light show. Gear flaps came in and landed and landed. And as I landed and cleared the runway, I see a bunch of security police sitting there. Those couldn't be for me. Yeah, they were. So I clear the runway and they had the taxiway blocked. I could get off the runway, but the taxiway's blocked. So I go over to ground control and now the radio channelized. So I called him up. I said, Grissom Duke 17 is clear of the active. And Roger, hold your position. I said, well, I don't have a lot of choice. I said, with all these cops out here. So now you got a bunch of 19-year-old kids with rifles, and they're all looking at me like I'm a threat. And he said, Duke 17, we do not have a flight plan on you. Oh, really? I said, well, I've got my copy here in my hot little hand. And he said, well, the base ops officer's on his way out. He wants to see it. Okay, fine. So I just sit there watching all these 19-year-olds. I got my hands up. I don't want them to think I'm going to do anything. So this, I don't know what it is with these majors that end up in base ops, but this chubby little major gets out of his truck, and he waddles over and he sticks his hand up, right in front of the intake. Now, I'm not going to hand anything to Chubby Cheeks down there. I've got the flight plan, and I kind of hold it up like that so you can see it. I am not going to hand it over the rails of the intake. So here we are. He's standing there with the French Foreign Legion surrounding my airplane, and I've got my flight plan in my hand. So I just called up ground control. I said, hey, ground control, I said, let the major know I will be happy to hand him this flight plan once I get to the chocks and shut the engines down, but I am not going to hand it to him with these engines running. So he finally figured out that I wasn't in the mood for anything else other than that, and so they backed off. I taxied over to the Ace Department with an escort, shut him down, got out of the airplane, handed it to him. He looked it over. He was happy with it. I was happy to be down. And went in, debriefed the maintenance guys inside the Ace detachment. Now it's about 10:45, 11 o'clock. That's good enough for me. I headed to the O Club for a beer. Oh yeah, I might have had some breakfast then too, because I was going to spend the night anyway. Anyway, that was probably, if I had to file one, that was pretty close to my worst. P.S. to this story too. So the guys got everything fixed over that next, whatever it was, 8 hours or whatever it was. The airplane was good to go the next morning. The next morning I came out, as I'm doing my walk around, I thought, wow, that's a crappy paint job. The paint was peeled back on all the surfaces where I'd gone through that thunderstorm you're not supposed to go through. So I get back to Vance, and a couple days later at the staff meeting, the maintenance guy the chief of maintenance wanted to know who flew that airplane and stripped all the paint. It had just come out of the paint barn. That would be me. At any rate, that was probably, if I had to say it, the worst flight I ever had. It was entertaining just to say. Thanks for stopping in. Good to see everybody. Bobo, base gear, stop.